From the first day I stepped into JP Morgan, I was told your network is your net worth. At the time, I didn't know what this meant, and honestly, I didn't even care. However, as I progressed through my career, I understood how important networking is, as well as wishing to start it a lot sooner. Join me in today's video where we look at what networking is so you don't get left behind. Welcome back to another video. If you haven't already subscribed, then make sure you do. And today we're going to be looking at what networking is, how it's so beneficial to your career, as well as the different ways that you can network. Now, networking is often seen as something that happens amongst the rich or in elite corporate circles, when really it's something that we all should be doing, and most likely we're already doing. To begin with, let's look at a definition of what networking is. Investopedia defines networking as the exchange of information and ideas among people with a common profession or special interest, usually in an informal social setting. Networking often begins with a single point of common ground. Now that's a pretty good definition, but again, it makes it sound way too corporate than it needs to be. Commenting on this video, liking a post on LinkedIn, or even having coffee with a friend, this is all forms of networking. You see, networking doesn't always have to consist of you talking about your 5-year growth plan or what you do on your day-to-day job. Networking is just interacting with people and exchanging ideas over time. The common view and picture people have of networking is people just standing around in a room and having conversations with each other. Now this is true in corporate settings, and later in the video I'm going to talk about why this way is actually changing. However, for the time being, yes, this is something that you're going to have to get used to when it comes to networking. The reason why this way of networking has been so prevalent in companies is because this is one of the few ways it's possible to get managing directors, VPs and interns all in the same room. When it comes to networking, there was a study done by the Harvard Business Review that looked at the different participants and how they interacted with the events. What they found was the majority of people could be split into two main groups. You had the promotion mentality people and you had the prevention mentality people. The promotion mentality people looked to networking events as something that could grow, advance and provide accomplishments in their careers. Whereas prevention mentality people saw networking as a chore and something that they had to do for professional reasons. Promotion mentality people approach networking events with excitement, curiosity, and an open mind to what the events could bring them, whereas prevention mentality people approach the events because they had to and felt it was a necessary evil. Now you might see yourself as someone who's clearly in the prevention mentality and think you're an odd one out. However, I promise you, the majority of the people, more than you think, are actually part of this group and see networking as a necessary chore rather than something that they look forward to. One of the ways I started becoming more comfortable with networking was to set small goals for myself at these events. For instance, I promised myself that I just have to talk to 3 people, and then if I want to, it'll be fine to leave. Over time, by approaching more and more people, I became more confident and networking events felt less daunting. In this video, I want to shift everyone's focus to a promotion mentality and see how networking can benefit their career as well as them being themselves during these events. However, before exploring the ways networking can advance your career, a common question amongst students, interns and graduates is, what do you even talk about at these events? Moreover, how do you break the ice? The answer to this is your elevator pitch. Your elevator pitch will consist of your name, what you studied, where you studied, any interesting modules or work experience you've done, as well as what you'd like to do in the future. The reason why it's called your elevator pitch is because it should be short and concise enough that you can talk about this introduction whilst you're traveling between floors on an elevator. Your elevator pitch is something that you should practice on continuously, and over time it's natural that you'll change what it consists of. So for instance, perhaps when you're starting your career, you'll talk about what university you went to and the modules you studied, whereas a couple of years after you've been working, your elevator pitch will consist of what projects you've been involved in as well as the impact you've had. Nevertheless, always make sure you're able to pull out your elevator pitch at any moment. This way you'll always leave a lasting impression on who you talk to during the events, as well as have a topic of conversations to talk more about. The first benefit of networking that I want to talk about is unknown opportunities. Now, when it comes to networking, a lot of people make the mistake of always making it about themselves and how they can talk about what they want. Networking is a two-way process, and so it's important to understand what other people have gone through in their careers and what they'd like to do as well. By letting people talk about themselves, they'll be able to talk about something that they're really familiar with, their own career, as well as be able to talk more frankly about interesting aspects of their life. By doing this and making the other people feel at ease during networking events, you'll be able to uncover interesting things which you also might be interested in. So for instance, people might be able to talk more about interesting areas that they worked in or teams that they work closely with, which you're also interested in. Or they'll talk about other areas such as taking a sabbatical, which you might be interested in doing. By asking questions about what people have done in their careers and how they went about it, you immediately have a contact to find more information about when it comes to you wanting to do that as well. Either way, when it comes to these kind of talks, you always want to make sure you do two things at the end of the event. Those people you found interesting, you either want to make sure you take their business card or their names down and contact details. And secondly, make sure you follow up with a further one-to-one session with them so you can talk more freely. At times when it comes to networking, you may come across people whose career path you admire or find that they work in teams or areas that you're also interested in working in. Not only is it important, as mentioned, to talk with them one-on-one after the session to find out more about the journey, but it's also important to talk one-on-one with other people that work on their team. When you talk with other people on the team, specifically more junior members, you'll find out what it's like to actually work on the team on a more day-to-day basis. More importantly, you'll also get to find out how different people have come to work on that team. Some people may have done relevant degrees, some people may have done relevant qualifications, or some people may have been able to leverage their skills from another team. By finding out what people do on a day-to-day basis and the required skills to succeed in that team, you'll be able to have more fruitful discussions with more senior members of that team, as well as be someone that looks like they know what they're talking about. The second reason why it's important to talk to the more junior members of the team is when it comes to jobs and teams looking for who to hire for positions, it's often the junior candidates that sift through the resumes and then recommend people to more senior managers for interviews. By having junior members on the team be able to vouch for you and talk about how enthusiastic you are to work on the team, you'll stand a better chance of having that interview. One of the reasons why I feel your network is your net worth is your network allows you to have access and knowledge to a lot of different things without you even knowing anything about that topic. You see, it's impossible to do everything yourself, and at times to do the best job possible, you'll have to go seek help from other people. This could be understanding different concepts of your work, understanding how to use a particular system, or just find out more about the role. Either way, by having a network, you're able to leverage other people's knowledge and help you in your day-to-day work. The best way I can give an example is from a personal experience I had during my internship, where one of my tasks that I was responsible for was to summarize pieces of data taken from 3 systems at 3 points during the day, collate the information, and then do a trend analysis before sending it off to senior management. At one lunchtime, I was meeting my friends who introduced me to one of his colleagues who worked in the tech team. I talked about what I was doing during the day, including that task, and he mentioned how he solved a problem where he could write a script for another team that automated a similar project. I showed him my task and he was able to amend his script slightly and incorporate that into my task. This then cut down the total I spent on that task from 3 hours in the day to just 15 minutes. This improvement was naturally looked upon favorably during my internship, as it showed that I could tap into other people's knowledge and network efficiently. A lot of times you often hear about people catching lucky breaks, that they meet the right people at the right time. Whereas in reality, when you think about it, all they were doing was networking. My network was my friend who I was having lunch with, and all he did was expand my network by introducing his own colleague. Now, when it comes to networking, it's important to understand that your network is not something you just call upon in times of your own need, or you don't keep up to date on. Networking is a two-way process, and so after listening to what other people are looking for from their own career progress, if you know that someone's searching for something specific in your network and you come across it, then feel free to forward it. Whether that's a training document or an external course that could help them, your network is something that you should also be participating in rather than just taking from it. An important point in your network is to always stay up to date with what people are looking for, just as important as you keeping them up to date with what you're looking for. When it comes to talking to your network, you might find that nothing has really changed for you in your career, so you might think, what's the point of keeping them up to date? However, other people's careers are still progressing, and so it's important to always keep up to date with what they're doing and how their careers have progressed. You might now find that people have accomplished things in their career that you wanted to do for a very long time, and only by interacting with them are you able to know this. They'll be able to now guide you on how to achieve this as well. At the very minimum, by always interacting with your network, you'll be able to remind them of what you're after with your career, as well as always keep yourself in a constant present in their mind. This way, when they do come across someone that can help you, they'd immediately know to reach out to you. At the very beginning of the video, I talked about the traditional way of networking where people were gathered in a room and usually it was centered around drinks. Networking in the modern day has changed where companies are taking into account people's personal and religious beliefs and trying to incorporate them so they can be a valued part of the network. No longer do you find networking events only centered around drinking. My own personal experience of networking events in the modern day has been team quiz nights, bowling events, as well as department-wide five-a-side football. The great thing about these types of events are, number one is there's an immediate topic of conversation to have, and number two, you're forced to work in a team and talk about something which might not necessarily be something as boring as your 5-year growth plan. With companies focusing a lot more on diversity and inclusion, it's important to voice your own opinions of what you feel comfortable with and what you feel you can and can't attend. But the important point is, when you do find something that you can attend and feel comfortable with, it's important that you go out and network. And that's the end of this video. If this video has given you encouragement to start networking, then give a like, and I'll see you all in the next video.